Us. Let's get a quick take on how the city of Boulder may need to respond to the success of its sugary drink tax. The excise tax has brought in $5.2 million so far, which is more than the projected $3.8 million. The Boulder City Council must now either refund the overage or ask voters to keep the excess revenue. Patty Calhoun from Westward, we were mocking the whole idea of a sugary tax around this table, which is kind of our thing to do, for a long time. Now they've brought in even more money than they thought. Do you think a refund is in the future, or is Boulder going to find a way to get the money back?
I think Boulder will wind up keeping the money because it's Boulder and people will want them to keep it. But the most interesting thing about this is clearly this sin tax is not working the way they thought it would. It's supposed to discourage you from this improper Boulder behavior. But apparently more people than ever are buying sugary drinks in Boulder, perhaps just to defy authority.
To defy authority, indeed. In fact, speaking of defying authority, David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. David, you are from Boulder. You live there now. You're right there in the middle of it. What's your thought on what should happen?
Oh, you would, if you wanted to search the whole state over and find 9 of the most prejudiced, narrow-minded, intolerant people, you could hardly do better than starting at the Boulder City Council, and your search would be complete. They live to persecute people who are different. They're extremely intolerant and prejudiced, and it turns out that too many people in Boulder are not going along, as Patty said, with their culture war against people who choose to drink sugary drinks. So it looks like they'll end up getting more loot in the long run. So it's a win-win situation, I guess, from their point of view.
Always middle-of-the-road opinions from you, David. I appreciate that. Susan Green, editor of the Colorado Independent, joins us. Thank you very much for being here, Susan. Boulder always gives us great things to talk about. When you see about the overage and excise tax here, do you think that it's probably bound for more things in Boulder? Will Boulderites give it back to the city?
Well, to be clear, this amounts to $1.4 million, which barely buys a house in Boulder. I mean, the average house in Boulder costs $1 million, a little bit over that. So it's not like we're talking about a huge mother lode in Boulder's context, number one. Number two, I don't use the term nanny state very often, and when I do, it kind of just makes me feel like, you know, I've been somehow overtaken by John Caldera, but this is the craziest nanny tax ever. And I don't agree really with David about pretty much anything, including the city council, but I do think this is a pretty boneheaded tax.
Somewhere John Caldera is so very happy right now.
Yeah.
Says you made him a very happy person. Ross Kaminsky rounds out the panel, talk show host on 630 KHOW every morning. Be sure to check him out. Ross, what do you think? Just more of the same that we can expect from Boulder?
Yeah, well, I think they'll definitely keep the money, and I'm glad you've been overtaken, at least for a moment, by John, and I'll do my part to hold up John's end of the deal. I'm sure Dave will too. And I was actually going to mention the housing price thing because really in a town where the average home price is $1 million, it probably would be silly to think that they would stop buying their big gulps or soda or whatever for an extra few cents a can. Who's going to care in a town like Boulder?